Good morning, men. Well, it's January 2nd, so we turn to the book of Proverbs, chapter 2, for God's daily dose of wisdom. And verses 1 through 5, right there at the beginning of the chapter, are what jumped off the page today. And they go like this. My son, if you will receive my words and treasure my commandments within you, make your ear attentive to wisdom, incline your heart to understanding. For if you cry for discernment, lift your voice for understanding. If you seek her as silver and search for her as for hidden treasures, then you will discern the fear of the Lord and discover the knowledge of God. Wow, powerful stuff. You know, it's interesting that the writer Solomon is talking to his son, and he's describing for his son and for us the position and attitude that we must take when we're seeking God. We need to receive his words and treasure his commandments within us. We need to make our ear attentive. In other words, turn our ear towards him. And incline our heart to understanding actually means to enlarge or stretch or increase the capacity and desire for understanding. And then he switches and he says, if you cry for discernment, he turns here and he says that you need to work at it. You need to search for it. If you cry for discernment, lift your voice for understanding. If you seek her as silver and search for her as for hidden treasures. This is not a passive situation at all. It's very active. And I like to think of God's wisdom as a deep well, where you have to throw the bucket down into the well and you got to crank that bucket up. You can fill it up with as much as the bucket can hold, and then you crank that dude up, and it takes a long time to get that bucket up because it's a really deep well. But that's a lot like wisdom. It takes work, it takes effort, it takes energy, it takes focus in studying his word and seeking the treasures that are kept there. But then the key here, it says, then you will discern the fear of the Lord and discover the knowledge of God. Now, yesterday in Proverbs chapter 1, we discovered that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Knowledge being that first basic building block. There's knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. And knowledge is the first basic building block. There's a Chinese proverb that says, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And yesterday we learned that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. That's that single step. And so what we see here in chapter 2 is that we need to have an attitude of receiving, but we also need to have an action of seeking in order to uncover or discover the knowledge of God and the fear of the Lord. And that's our beginning step. Now, that last little phrase, discover the knowledge of God. There's a book by A.W. Tozer called The Knowledge of the Holy. And it is, in my opinion, one of the best books on the characteristics and nature of God. Just reading the introduction of that book, I was like, whoa, this is deep. This is heavy stuff. It's a great book. Anything by A.W. Tozer is going to be good, but The Knowledge of the Holy by A.W. Tozer, I highly recommend it. If you have not read it, I highly recommend that you get it and you read it, because it will blow your mind about the characteristics and the nature of who God is. He's an amazing God. And he loves each and every one of us. In fact, he loves each and every person on the face of this planet. My hope, my prayer as we enter into this new year is that we have that position of receiving. We have that activity of seeking, of digging deep into this vein of gold called wisdom that's contained in the book of Proverbs. And as we do, we begin to discover the knowledge of the holy and the fear of the Lord, because that's a great place to start in the new year. I love you, my brothers. God bless you today, and I pray that you go out and you make a difference in someone's life. God bless you.